There's no simple answer to cancer.
Cancer is such a complicated problem that continuing to foster highly multidisciplinary research, I think, is extremely important.
It is one of the most difficult problems that biomedical research has ever attempted to tackle.
Some we know a lot about and have made great progress towards, and others, like triple-negative breast cancer, have really been defined by what they're not. It is the hardest breast cancer to treat. It is among the most aggressive. Until very recently, we really haven't had any drugs that directly address what triple-negative breast cancer really is.
And we found a way just to correct that, reprogramming these cancer cells so they would act like a more favorable type of breast cancer. We wouldn't have gotten this done without seed funding from the Samuel Waxman Cancer Research Foundation. We had no other sources of funding.
Dr. Waxman came to me with a specific problem. He had identified an area that he thought that I would be qualified to address, and he actually gave me the funding and said, here's the problem, please go work on this. So, and that's, again, very unusual. Other organizations don't have the flexibility to do that.
Usual appointment, I went in for chest pain that had absolutely nothing to do with leukemia. And ironically, 3 months later, as a complete surprise, the diagnosis came out that I had CML.
The concept of a portion of the tumor resisting has become very well established in the scientific world. And those cells are they're known now as cancer stem cells. And so the analogy that people use that's really a good way to think about it is imagine pulling a weed and failing to get that little bit of the root that allows it to grow back. Well, imagine the same concept with a cancer. And we study leukemia, but the basic idea is potentially applicable to any form of cancer.
Well, Dr. Waxman said it best to me. He said, you are blessed in terms of your timing in being diagnosed with this disease. Because now the worst thing that happens is you have to complain about side effects. I'm not going through a surgical procedure. I don't need a bone marrow transplant. I'm not going through chemotherapy. The fact that I can sit here and not talk to you about the fact that I might be dead in the next 3 to 4 years is pretty awesome.
We're taking good quality labs and bringing them together. We know if they're going to carry out their collaboration, it's got to be a synergism.
For me, Dr. Waxman's approach is more kind of going to the very, very micro level and looking at it at that level instead of kind of what's the bigger picture and trying to kill it, because the micro affects the macro.
I know firsthand through my work as an advocate with scientists that collaborative effort can accomplish is far beyond what individual researchers working in a competitive environment in their own laboratories can achieve.
And that kind of goal and creating a global community, or the Institute Without Walls, is what I believe is going to actually help us get to the root of cancer faster.
One of the great things about science in the modern era is that we are learning things so fast and they're moving so quickly that it's enormously beneficial to also have smaller agencies that can be very nimble. And so the size of the Waxman Foundation is fantastic. Literally in almost real time, they can adapt to new discoveries that are made, redirect their funding into critical areas. And so, again, I'm not aware of any agency that is as versatile and as flexible as the Waxman Foundation, and I think that's tremendously valuable.
We formed this collaborative with UCLA and then began looking for support to carry out the clinical trials that we wanted to carry out. And one of the first places we turned was the Waxman Foundation, because we knew that the Waxman Foundation was interested in supporting new ventures in cancer research. The most important thing that they did was that they were willing to bet on a quite unproven idea very early on.
Research is chancy. There's no sure thing here, like in any other business venture, anything creative, anything new. You can't be sure until you try it.
So when you think about how cancer research is funded, the majority of the dollars come from the National Cancer Institute, and it's a huge organization and is really a battleship. Once it heads a certain direction, it's very hard to turn. It's very hard to quickly adapt to new things in the field.
The worst thing that can happen in research is for there to be a break in support. then you lose the young people, you lose the momentum.
I mean, we are in such a crunch when it comes to federal funding of research, and it's even going to get tighter.
You know, we should do everything in our power at this point in time to beat the living crap out of it. And if that takes money, if that takes time, if that takes energy, then that's where we should dedicate ourselves.
Buying science, it is a great investment, and we do everything possible to make it personal so you know exactly what you've done.